how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Conflict Radio. Today is November 4th, 2024. And today on the show, we've got Dr. Courtney Brown, no other. He is the director and founder of the Farsight Institute, a nonprofit research and educational organization dedicated to the study of the phenomenon of non-local consciousness known as remote viewing. He's also the CEO of streaming service FarsightPrime, which is the largest venue of public projects featuring remote viewing anywhere. He has published peer-reviewed research on the subject in premier scientific outlets and has spoken internationally at a host of prestigious venues, including various universities, as well as respected gatherings of physicists. Dr. Courtney Brown, thanks so much for coming back on Conflict Radio. It's your third time with us. I hope you have as much fun as you've had the other two times.
Michael, this is great to be here. I'm so happy. This is this special time because it's the day before the election.
Yeah, we scheduled this way, and spoiler alert, everybody, we schedule shows in advance. And you told us you'd let us know what. Let's knock it out of the park. What in the world is going to happen?
Okay, Michael, can I just give you the long story short?
Yeah, however you want to do it.
The long story short is we do remote viewing, and there exists in the world a general idea of saying, okay, I can take so much. Let's see if UFOs are real. Let's just see if they're real or not. Disclosure, are they real or not? Then there's those people who say, okay, well, there have been crashed ships and there's a crash retrieval program. That's what David Grush has been talking about in congressional hearings and others, whistleblowers. And then they've gone to the point of saying the U.S. is actually involved in all of that, especially by, having ships that are crashed, and then they go out and pick them up and then try to reverse engineer things and so on. And then there's the other people that say, yeah, well, those ships have people on them, they have beings on them. So the government's been interacting with extraterrestrials for a very long time. And here most people are trying to figure out if UFOs are real. And in fact, the government's doing a zillion things behind the scenes. And then there's other people that say, yeah, but for those people who have known about the extraterrestrials interacting, they don't communicate in English. They communicate telepathically. Okay, then there's this other level of people that say, okay, well, and it goes down the rabbit hole and everyone has their acceptance level, and it's like a wall. Anything beyond that wall, they don't accept. And anything before that wall, they'll accept. And the walls vary per person. So what we do at Farsight is we don't have any walls. We just want to see where everything goes. So we have used remote viewing for a very long time. And this is a set of procedures that were originally developed by the United States military and used for espionage purposes. But we're civilian, and we have taken those original procedures and advanced them and developed them really much to a huge degree to be able to do a lot. And then we have professional remote viewers that do this full time. This is how they pay their rent. This is how they pay their grocery bills. And this is all they do. And they do this. And then they've been doing this for like 10 years. They've been doing this a very, very, very long time. And they're the only fully professional in the sense that this is how they make their living, doing this in terms of projects. Not necessarily teaching, which is what you do get out there in the community out there, but our people actually do projects. So we are the largest venue of full public projects that exist anywhere. And I can say we're the largest and the best because, Michael, we're the only ones of the thousands of people that say they do and interact with remote viewing. Find me public sessions or public projects. Where are they? They don't exist. You tell me the URL. Farsight is the only place where you can get this stuff. And our people have years and years and years of full public projects. So you say, you doubt whether it works or not. Okay, well, look at our stuff. All of it's done under totally blind conditions. And people always say, okay, well, what kind of blind do you do? Do you do double blind or whatever like that? I said, no, that double blind that's crap. That's what was developed back in the early military days when they were saying the people in the surrounding environment should not know what the target is. And the remote viewer should be blind, but also the people around should. We don't believe any of that because we think the best thing is solo. Our people do things solo using advanced procedures that we actually call instrument blinding protocols, which were we use instrumentation to control and um, who and what the people have access to, and when they do their final recordings, they do everything on video, and very cinematically interesting. They do it solo. So, solo is better than double blind because solo means you're out there by yourself. But, there's an interesting thing here. The um, the real question with the extraterrestrials is, since we've been doing this so long, how have we gotten to be so big, and how have we gotten to have our own streaming service that's equivalent on a technical level to Hulu, Netflix, Disney, whatever? How did it happen when nobody else has it? Well, the reality is we have been helped by a group of extraterrestrials who we call the good ETs. There are basically two factions, and we call them good ETs and bad ETs. But really, my son Aziz, he actually thinks it's not good to call people good or bad. They should be called. He likes to look at the entire realm of extraterrestrials in terms of predator-prey relationships, so that there are predator relationships and there are other relationships that are more, useful and helpful and so on like that. But the extraterrestrials have been helping us for a very long time, and I mean overtly. Money, instructions, the procedures that we have developed were basically given to us by the extraterrestrials. It was sort of like a graduate student and a mentor relationship where they'd saying, do this, try this, do this. And we kept on trying things, and they would nudge us this way and nudge us that way. We have full meetings with the extraterrestrials, sometimes on the beach in secluded locations. We video record everything and show people. We have board meetings with the extraterrestrials where they show up in our boardroom and they actually talk and they tell us things. And then we also have our remote viewing projects, and our remote viewing projects are hundreds. And these are full-blown projects, each one like a movie long. And we have, and what they wanted us to do, we're basically, we're good, we follow along with. They wanted to build a library because they said, you can't believe anything. You cannot believe anything that you get through any type of news, any type of history, any type of academic stuff that you're looking in terms of what happened in the past. Nothing. You can't believe anything. It's all been manipulated. And they're trying to hide information from you. And the only thing our side of the extraterrestrials are trying to do is to force disclosure to happen now. Now, there's a time crunch that's going on right now. And this is it. Michael.
Yeah.
If you listen to, actually, it used to be the Democrats that used to say this on the liberal side of things. They were always the rebel party, but now it's the reversed. Now it's the Republicans who are talking about censorship and trying to end censorship, and they're the ones that are being canceled and everything like that. But it's the biggest discussion on the right side, which is censorship, and on the left side, you have people saying we have to control social media. Major players have been talking about you just can't let social media just get away and do things. People get strikes. People get their channels taken down. They get videos taken down. People like Elon Musk, President Trump, they get kicked off of platforms. They get all types of things happening to them. And the issue is that how does that actually fit into this disclosure thing? Well, we're at a point in time we have just a few years, a very short amount of time, before the tentacles of the powers that be and the controllers and the group that I like to call the bad ETs, who are helping the collaborators in the government and industry also, use censorship and control social media to the point where disclosure is impossible. So anybody that tells you, "Oh, we'll have disclosure in a few years," that's bullshit. There's no disclosure in a full years. In a few years, there's going to be no chance of any disclosure because already you have the head of Telegram being arrested in France, Pavel Durov. You have stuff being taken down on all the social media, Facebook. YouTube, all the various sorts of Instagram. You get posts saying things that are sort of innocuous, being taken down for all types of reasons. and censorship is just the thing. Well, in 2 or 3 years, it's going to be complete. So any source that's getting it, including channeled sources, that's saying you're almost ready, you're almost ready, you're going to be there just a few years, you'll have disclosure in 3 years, in 2 years. They're lying through their teeth, because what's really going to happen is going to be no disclosure in a few years, because social media will be totally controlled. Now is the time it has to happen. So, Michael, you asked me to cut to the chase. This is the chase. We've been having meetings with our extraterrestrial friends who have been helping us in terms of developing remote viewing procedures. They made sure we have enough money to pay our bills. I mean, they've been.
And how are they giving you money?
They get people to give us money at certain points of time when we absolutely need it, and we get the
Okay,
exact
so it's
amount of
not like
money.
they're just like printing it up on their spaceship or something.
No. They certain people. It's just whenever we have needs, the resources come to us at that time, but not before.
Yeah, I would
Otherwise,
imagine that like if they're flying around in space, they could grab any kinds of
no. The resources have to always come through normal human channels.
yeah.
Okay, but now this is the thing. This is what they've been telling us. The bad ETs, which are the ones that are working under Area 51 and collaborating and
Yeah.
helping the American government to reverse engineering of ships. Everything is secret. Everything is super, super secret, which is why it's such a torture to try to get anything out of the Pentagon. And that's if you're in Congress and you're a congressman or a senator and you're trying to get the Pentagon to say anything. It's torture to try to get them. But you have whistleblowers coming out of the Pentagon. So clearly the Pentagon is split. Let's say 50-50. Half of the Pentagon wants to continue the secrecy agenda and working with and collaborating with the group that we call the bad ETs because of the reverse engineering of the ET tech and so on. The other half desperately wants disclosure. Otherwise, Michael, we wouldn't exist. If the entire Pentagon was against us, I guarantee you we'd be snuffed out in half a second. So the issue is that the good ETs are the ones that we have been working with, and they actually come to our offices. The good ETs, they want the total disclosure. That's why they want us to video record their meetings with us. They want us to be. They want the total absence of secrecy. And what they have said is that these crises that the world is going through right now, they were all designed by what we call the bad ETs, but they were designed to go stretched out over like a 20-year period. So it would be like one crisis after the next, slowly dribbling it out. So humanity would be constantly kept in a state of turmoil and never be able to ask the serious questions of who's causing all this crap. So what the good ETs or our side did is they have an ability to take these crises that they did not create and compress them, move them in time so that they all happen at the same time. So then they're manipulating crises that they did not create, but they're manipulating them that they all happen at the same time. And that's what we're going into right now. And we just had a meeting just a little while ago. It's already on. We actually posted it on YouTube as well as FarsightPrime.com. That they said it has begun. It is beginning. Now it's beginning. This is it. And
Yeah.
it's really the kickoff is the American elections. The kickoff is the American elections. And so now at this point, they haven't told us. We asked them for specifics, what's going to happen, and they said you can't. They can't give us the specifics because the specifics are open to change, and they're working with things. It's like surfing. It's like in a canoe and you're going down the rapids, and they're working on it as well. But I can tell you, looking out, what the basic ingredients are that they're working with, and I can then extrapolate. And they've asked us to extrapolate. They told us it's okay to try to figure this out yourself. So, Michael, want me to tell you what I think is heading for us right now?
Yeah.
They have said some of this themselves, but this is the thing: is I sort of look at. I'm a political scientist. I teach at the university. I'm looking at these things happening, and I'm sort of using my social science skills to sort of extrapolate. What's going to happen is there's this much is. I'm going to just start with just basic facts. Remember the last Israeli attack on Iran happened about a week ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they were saying it was going to be a big attack, and Israel was saying, and Netanyahu was saying it was going to be a big attack, and so on. And it turned out to be like a fly swatter type of thing, hardly anything. Well, what actually happened, and this was released by the UK government, is that the Israelis did launch an attack. The first wave was an aerial attack with their jets that was supposed to knock out all of the air defenses for Iran. That was the first wave. And then they were going to go with wave after wave after wave and knock out all types of other things. But the Israeli Air Force detected a new type of missile of anti-aircraft defense. It was probably something that was just shipped in from the Russians, or maybe self-designed by the Iranians. But it was a new thing, and they weren't expecting it. So they called off the entire invasion. They called off the entire attack and sent some missiles in from a distance that hit Iranian targets, and then turned around and came back. And then the Biden administration sort of said, okay, the Israelis listened to us and did restraint. It was a small thing. And Iran, we don't think you should actually attack again. And Iran and Biden administration also said, if you attack again, we cannot guarantee we cannot restrain the Israelis. Well, in the meanwhile, the Iranians, the Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of the supreme spiritual leader of Iran, has stated they are going to respond, and it's going to be big. It's going to be big, and they've actually notified all of their Islamic neighbors that they're going to respond big. And right now, I'm certain Israel is trying to completely figure out what is this new air defense that Iran has, so they can do something to nullify it. So Iran's going to do something. And no matter what it is, Israel's going to respond, and it's probably going to be very big. What they wanted to do the first time, but didn't because of the air defense. And when they do something really big, it's going to drag in the Russians, because the Iranians have an IOU from the Russians. They have been feeding in all types of missiles and drones and everything to the Russians in their battle with Ukraine. So they have the ability to say, okay, Russia, now's the time. So the Russians are going to be fed into the Iranian side in the conflict, and that's going to definitely bring in the American side. And the American side is probably going to be involved in the original attack that Israel is going to give to Iran in the first place. So what I'm basically saying is you're going to be seeing direct conflict between the U.S. between Russia and the United States. Okay, and then on the Ukraine side, that is gearing up. Already, Russia is starting to surround Europe with ballistic missiles that could carry tactical nuclear weapons. They have already shipped in, they're already installed. It happened this week. The ballistic missiles into Algeria, all aimed at Europe. They're trying to surround it in terms of that. And what's going to basically happen is the North Koreans are sending in apparently 12 to 15,000. They've already got 3 to 5,000 troops on the ground in Russian uniforms in Russia, fighting on, and they're moving towards the front lines.
Yeah, I
And
heard it was up at around 10.
well,
10,000, and
it's going.
they're in the Kursk region.
Yeah, it's going. It may be at 10,000 already, but it's going towards 15,000.
Mm.
And when you have North Korean troops fighting the Ukrainians who are using NATO weapons, that is absolutely guaranteed. It's going to bring in NATO troops, including American stuff. So it's not just American weapons or NATO weapons. It's going to be NATO troops, because they're not going to stomach North Korean troops crushing the Ukrainians. It's a huge deal. Russia is running out of troops, and by them bringing in the North Koreans, it's a game changer for everything. So you are again going to have conflict between Russia and not just Ukraine, but Russia and the West. Now, Dmitry Medvedev, the former president of Russia and colleague with Putin, Vladimir Putin, he has stated point blank last week that the Russia and the United States are very close to direct military conflict. He stated that point blank. And so and also just again a few days ago, the lady who's I forget her name, but she's the head of the European Union, the chief bureaucrat of the European Union, the person who runs is the top dog of the European Union, gave out a formal statement to all Europeans that they should all stock up immediately on 3 days of
Yeah.
emergency supplies in case because of the possibility of military incursion by Russia into Europe.
You know,
And this,
if Russia is going to attack Europe and they only need 3 days of supplies, I think that's good news.
well, that the 3 days is a joke.
It's
But
laughable, really.
she was basically giving a hint. But she said point blank, all Europeans need to get emergency supplies. She didn't want to say 2 months or 6 months because
Yeah.
that would have completely eliminated all stores, all supplies. But she let it out that everyone should be stocking up with something. And so, if you look at all of the evidence, it looks like World War III is coming. And really, what we're seeing now let's go to the United States. So I'm looking at a lot of crises and I'm putting them all together. And our friends, our ETs, have said they're responsible. They want everyone to know they're responsible for crushing them all into one time period. Because otherwise, they would have all happened anyway, but they would have been strung out over 20 years. Now, in the United States, we're going to have an election tomorrow. Michael, I'm sorry, but this election is just not going to be resolved tomorrow. I mean, both sides are totally uncompromising, and both sides are going to contest. The evidence seems to suggest that just like like Republicans contested the 2020 election, this time it's going to be both sides contesting. No matter who wins, there's going to be a contestation.
Yeah.
General Milley of the general that runs the top dog of the entire U.S. military a few years ago, actually after the 2020 election, he looked at the 124 admirals and generals that had just recently retired that signed an open petition basically questioning the validity of the 2020 election, essentially saying the election evidence seemed to suggest the election was stolen and they want something should be done about it. General Milley said, if you have 124 retired admirals and generals are the same rank, just the admirals work with the Navy and the generals work with the rest. So he said, if there's 124 admirals and generals retired that are willing to sign that, that means inside the military, among the admirals and generals who are not retired, there's a huge, they're polarized as well. And when it comes to the 2024 election, he said, I don't know if I can get them to obey the orders. They may pick sides. Half of them, because they won't believe the electoral result. Half of them will say, no, Kamala Harris won. And the other half will say Donald Trump won. And they may actually start fighting each other. So what we actually see is the potential for violence. And like if Donald Trump wins the election, is a Democratic and liberal side just going to say, you answer me now, Michael. Are they just going to say, oh, shucks. Well, we'll try again in another 4 years. We gave it the good college try.
Well, you know what the funny thing is that I've actually been watching on Twitter that there's like 3 bridges that have been taken out in the last just since this weekend. One of them was in Detroit. Another one, connecting Detroit to, going over the river. That bridge was taken out. And there's another bridge that was connecting Cincinnati, Ohio to Kentucky. That bridge was taken out by some kind of car bomb. And then there's another bridge taken out earlier today. I saw. I forget where that one was, but
Michael,
it seems like they're already taking out bridges. They're getting ready to take our cities.
Whatever you're seeing, I think, is just a vague shadow of what's to come.
Yeah.
And now let's say Kamala Harris wins the election. Do you think Donald Trump and the Republican, his side, are going to just say, "Oh well, so we'll wait, we'll try again in 4 years"? No matter who wins the election, it's going to be contested. They're not going to accept it. The liberal side is not simply going to accept it. And then now let's talk AI. We're working at Farsight a lot with AI these days. Let me tell you, Michael, the way we run our elections in the United States with ballots being counted by computers, I'm sorry, the entire electoral system is not competent, is not capable of functioning any longer. It's in the old days it was those Chinese hackers. Oh, it was the Russian hackers. But Michael, now it's way beyond that. When you're dealing with these AI computers, they can get them. The AI computers can get into anything, and it's a lot like The Person of Interest, the TV show, The Person of Interest, where there was the machine, and then there was Samaritan, warring AIs. But the issue is that I think what we're possibly seeing here is the end of the American experiment in democracy as we have classically defined it, because we have too many votes. You can't just have all the votes on a piece of paper and then have humans read them. You're going to have to be read by computers. There may be a paper ballot, but the paper ballot has to be read by a computer, and then numbers have to be coming in. Now we have a situation where when ballots get emailed in or get brought in, the technology is now available to find out where they came from. So we'll be able to locate whether they actually came from a warehouse in the middle of nowhere that nobody lives there, but actually a million votes could come in. I mean, we couldn't do that before, but we can do that now. And so there's going to be anyone who contests the election will have a legitimate gripe to contest it, because it's going to be impossible to actually demonstrate that that's what actually happened with the ballots. And for those people who say there's no evidence of, they're ridiculous. People who are going to be compromising the election through computer stuff and stuff like that, they're not going to leave evidence. You think there's going to be somebody that's going to be caught with a bag of ballots and they're going to be caught by the police, and the police are going to interrogate them and say, yeah, I swear I did it, I confess. It's not going to be that way. AIs are not going to leave any trace that there's not going to be there's not going to be evidence that you can see, Michael, on that the elections have been stolen. And then the question of who's stealing. Well, you're going to obviously have foreign actors doing it. The Russians are going to try it. The Chinese are going to try it. And the U.S. intelligence service, I have been around them for a long time. They are the best in the world. They're going to start messing with it as well internally, despite any legislation that says that they're not allowed to do that, because they're going to be trying to control whatever happens outside. You cannot accept the idea that everyone is benevolent. You have to accept the idea that everyone, it's a predator-prey relationship, and that there are people that are going to take advantage of it if they can take advantage of it. And based on the fact that we rely on computers to do everything, it's going to happen. It's not like maybe it might happen. In fact, you can actually probably say it has been happening for quite a while. But now it's gotten to the point where it's so clear that it cannot be controlled any longer. So I do not know what the future is going to be, but what I'm expecting is total chaos and a breakdown I'm expecting the next 6 months to be just a complete wreck, both in Europe, in the Middle East, and domestically here within the United States.
Yeah, I mean, we still have to see the dollar collapse yet.
That will actually happen unless something can be done to radically transform the American economic system. But the political will to do something like that is like where. So every 3 months we're adding $1 trillion to the debt. We're at 35 trillion so far. I mean, it's like. So anyway, what I'm expecting, and they're running in terms of the hurricane assistance, they run out of hurricane assistance. So if the budget, there isn't any money anymore. And so what we're really looking for is, a potential complete collapse of world order as we have known it. Now, I'm not predicting that to happen. All I am saying is all the ingredients seem to be there, and I don't see any logic that would tell me it's wrong. So I'm not predicting this stuff to happen. I'm just looking at the ingredients that I've just outlined to you, and I'm saying that's what I see. Now, what I'm expecting is that our side of DGs is pushing this, and they're causing all of these crises to happen all at once, rather than have them stretched out. And I'm expecting the following disclosures to happen. Donald Trump has actually already stated that if he gets in office, excuse me, if he gets in office, he's already promised Bobby Kennedy he'll release the JFK files. I'm expecting the first element of disclosure to happen with the release of the JFK files. First of all, I'm expecting November and December to be quite tumultuous, both internationally as well as domestically. But if Trump gets in, for example, and I'm not making a prediction one way or the other, but if Trump gets in, for example, he has promised Bobby Kennedy that he's going to release the JFK files, and he said all types of stuff like, "Why didn't you release him when you were president the first time?" And he said, "You wouldn't have released him either if you saw what they showed me." That's pretty indicative, you know.
Yeah.
And and then recently on the Sean Ryan podcast and other podcasts, he has said that he thinks the time is right. Excuse me. He thinks the time is right for releasing the JFK files because enough of the people who were involved are dead now. Well, what does that tell you, Michael? Does that tell you that? Excuse me.
I
Does
think
that tell you? Does that tell you that Lee Harvey Oswald did it, or does it tell you? And when you think about Lee Harvey Oswald, this is go back to the Warren Commission right afterwards. They had this rifle that they said Lee Harvey Oswald shot Kennedy on. Now, first of all, the Zapruder films that used to be so easily available on YouTube clearly showed that he got hit in the head from different directions, and never trust an academic. They had academics, and I say that as an academic. They had academics study the film, and they were actually, I saw them on television saying, "Oh no, you see what happened? We've been studying melons, and when you see when the bullet hits from one side, then the muscles react in the back, and they throw it back, and so on." That's crazy. The Zapruder film clearly shows he was hit in different directions, and the brain actually gets thrown backwards from an impact that it was happening. And Jacqueline Kennedy was crawling on the back of the car in order to pick up the brain of
yeah.
Kennedy and bring it back in. I mean, and supposedly Lee Harvey Oswald it was far behind in the back and shot forward. So none of that could have happened like that. Then the the FBI, the forensic experts hired by the Warren Commission, inspected the rifle that they said Lee Harvey Oswald had. The very rifle. And this is from the Warren Commission. This is not me. It was rusted and it was broken. The sights could not work. And the government's own forensic experts tried to fix the sights with shims, and they could not fix them. Now, Michael, I don't know if you're a gun person or not, but what do you know about gun people and their rifle and their guns?
They work.
They clean them, don't they? And
Yeah,
they
yeah.
polish them and they oil them and they put them on their mantelpiece. I mean, they're like they don't let them rust with broken shims. And whoever shot John F. Kennedy from a very long distance away. It was expert shots, and they didn't have a rusted rifle with broken shims. And then Lee Harvey Oswald, of course, was killed immediately right afterwards by Jack Ruby. And so, finally, it's clear that John F. Kennedy was not shot the way they said he was shot. So once you have disclosure, I think how John F. Kennedy was killed is going to be the first element in disclosure. I think the next thing that's going to happen will be the 9/11 stuff. They might actually start with Martin Luther King Jr., but the 9/11 stuff, that's got so many questions going on.
Yeah, they said the Martin Luther King Jr. stuff was going to come out too. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
And then if the 9/11 stuff comes out, then nobody will believe absolutely anything. And at that point, the UFO stuff, the alien stuff will come out. And and what you get then is a total end of secrecy. And that's what my side of the ETs is actually pushing for. They're not trying to tell people how to live their lives. They're not trying to tell people how to govern themselves. The only thing they want to say is tell the people the truth and then let the people decide what they want. Because my side of the ETs are totally fanatically, committed to free will. So the only thing they're trying to do is say, let people know what actually happened and then let them decide what they want to do. If they want to stay aligned to the bad ETs, let them be it. If they want to be slaves, they can say they want to be slaves. But let the information come out. So I think the next 6 months is going to be way more tumultuous than most people think. And
So
the only
do you
go,
think that there's going to be a that there's somebody's going to get sworn in on the 20th of January?
well, I think probably both sides will show up. But I
Will that
think
be up
some,
to the Supreme Court then? When
I
it'll
don't
come
know.
down to the Supreme
At
Court?
this point, you're dealing with details, and I don't know how. But I don't think either side is going to accept the other side. It's not like the old days where there was sort of a middle ground. There's no middle ground. And then you have situations where culturally the United States is just not really coherent anymore. You have, for example, in the West Coast, this woke culture that is very much associated with gender identification stuff. And you have you have situations in, for example, California, where the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, actually signed bills that allows underage kids like 10, 12, 15, 14, 13 years old to go to their guidance counselor and say, I think I should be the other gender. And then the guidance counselor can send the student to a doctor, a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist can say, or a medical doctor, and the medical doctor can is the legislation is such that they can only affirm. The rules are such they can only affirm. So they say, okay. And then totally keeping the information from the parents, they can start medicine, they can start drugs that will sterilize the children. The boys will not be able to have children again. Well, not the girls, they get body parts chopped off. This is definitely a thing in California, and it's spreading. And Europe actually used to be, they used to follow our lead and stuff like that. Europe, all of Europe is saying we're crazy with regard to that.
Yeah.
and and this type of legislation, Megyn Kelly has been really on the rampage talking about sort of the outrage of this type of thing. No one anywhere is upset with people having gender dysmorphia and wanting to be a different gender, as long as they're 18 years or older, as long as they're old enough.
Yeah,
The
no, I
question,
agree with you. I mean, if you can't vote, if you can't buy a pack of cigarettes, then you shouldn't be
yeah.
able to do that. Yeah,
And
that's just ridiculous, but
what is this thing about doing anything without the parents knowing about it? I
yeah,
mean, it's like, excuse me. I'm sorry. I've been recording all day and my voice is a little bit weird. But
yeah.
anyway, so the issue is that I'm not, and with regard to everything I just said regarding the gender, transgender stuff and the stuff that's going on in California, I am not getting involved in the argument of whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. All I'm saying is it's totally opposed by everyone in the middle of the country. So what you have is things that can be supported on the coasts, New York and California, Oregon, things like that. Sort of the sort of woke culture. But Texas and Oklahoma and Kansas and Iowa, they're simply not going to accept something like that. So you're looking at the potential breakup of the country based on these ideologies that are just growing out of things. And I was using the gender stuff just as an example of stuff that's going on. Like Kamala Harris, she was the border czar for 3.5 years. So she was in charge of it. And what happened? We had like 10 million people go across the border during that time period. So there's a
Well,
difference of
there's like 350,000 missing kids too.
there's a difference of opinion about how the border should be actually done. But if you want to know what her view of the border is, having these people come in is something that people should just allow. And in the situation with, because you have to follow what people do, don't follow what people say. She was a border czar, and that's what happened. So I'm not arguing for it or against it with regard to the gender dysmorphia issue and whatever. I'm not arguing for the California case or against it. I'm not arguing for the illegal immigration issue or against it. All I'm saying is that the country is divided, and they're not going to accept the other side, no matter what. So what I'm looking at So do you understand that, Michael? I want to make sure all of your listeners understand that in this whole show, I have never given my opinion of any of these issues. All I'm saying is the country is the elements of the country are not going to accept the viewpoints of the other elements of the country. The country is really badly polarized, and it's gotten to the point where people will break off.
Yeah,
Now,
but did you ever stop and think that it's not quite as equally divided as they make it out to be? That it's really more like 70-30 or 80-20? It's just that
I
the
don't know.
fake news props
I
that up.
I sort of think the country is 50-50. I really think it's really split.
I just
But
don't see how there could be that many stupid people out there.
yeah, it's people ask about that, and you can say that on either side. You can, if you're on the
I
liberal
guess.
side, you
Yeah,
can
I
say, I
don't know.
can't believe there's that many crazy conservatives out there. If you're on the conservative side, you can say, I can't believe there's that many crazy liberal people out there. So, but apparently it is approximately 50-50. So what I am saying is, I am expecting dramatic upheaval here in the United States. All the elements are there. And to say, no, it's never happened before is not an excuse to say it can't happen again. I mean, it can't happen now. So all I'm looking at what's going on in the Middle East, and I'm looking at what's going on in Europe, and I'm looking at, Russia's not going to back down on Ukrainian stuff, but NATO is not going to accept North Korean troops fighting against
Well,
Ukraine. They're
well,
not going.
first off, the whole North Korea troops thing, and I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this because this bothers me to no end. That the North Korean troops have every right to be in the Kursk region of Russia and defending Russia from any kind of attack. How many mercenary troops does Ukraine have in from France, Poland, the United States? I think I just read there are like 6 United States Special Forces members that just got killed in Ukraine. Their pictures all over X. So they're in Ukraine defending Ukraine. Why can't Russia have their friends in Russia defending Russia? Like I
The
could
issue,
see, I
the
could
issue,
see like if the North Koreans were going into Ukraine, but they're not. They're in Kursk. You know what I mean? I think it's
the
different.
the issue is not anything on the logical level like you're trying to do it now. The issue is NATO countries going to accept, and is the U.S. going to accept Korean troops, North Korean troops, fighting Ukraine? It's going to up the ante, and then, and then Ukraine is in a situation where they're totally that war is lost. It was lost a long time ago, but the issue is that war is totally lost unless the Ukrainians can do something to get the United States and NATO to start fighting the war. Ukraine is running out of soldiers. They just simply don't have enough people anymore. And so you're looking at a situation with Ukraine as a lost cause, unless they can get other people fighting for them. The same exact way Russia is now saying what they need North Korean troops to help fight for them. So Ukraine knows that the only way to get that to happen is to somehow engage Russia into a direct confrontation with Europe. So the strategy of Zelensky and Ukraine has to be, after the election, come hook or by crook, get some type of thing happening that's going to draw the military resources, the personnel of NATO and the United States into the conflict so that they can start doing the fighting because Ukraine's running out of soldiers. So with that level of incentive, I'm sort of saying this is World War III. And you have the stuff that you're seeing happening in the United States, the turmoil. And with all of this stuff, please understand, I'm not giving any type of personal opinion about anything. I'm not personally saying anything about my feelings towards Kamala Harris or my feelings toward Donald Trump or my feelings towards Ukraine or my feelings towards Russia or my feelings towards Iran or my feelings towards Israel or anything like that. I'm just pulling out the elements that I'm looking at, and I'm having our ET friends actually telling us that all these crises have to happen at the same time. And the only thing I'm saying is, actually, the only thing they have told me is that time is out. If disclosure doesn't happen now, don't believe any channeled information or any other sorts of information to say, don't worry, relax, chill out, it'll happen in 2 or 3 years. No. By that time, the control over social media will be so complete, there will be no disclosure in 2 or 3 years. There's no such thing as just kick it down the road and it'll be okay. Because if you look at every authoritarian regime, the very first thing they try to control, is social media.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's obvious. They've been
So
after
you,
that for a while. Let
so
me
you asked me for the long and the short of it. That's what I think is coming, and it
so
starts tomorrow.
so so how does disclosure happen then? Does the government come out and say it, or do they actually just kind of show
No,
up
the
around
government's
around the town?
no, they're going to be kicking and screaming the entire way. It's going to happen.
I'm saying, like, if Trump wins and, they're disclosing all of this stuff, 9/11 files,
First,
JFK,
first
do
of all,
they?
there's going to be a weakening of the state, the weakening of the structure of the state because of disruptions. And then, if Trump wins, you're going to get Bobby Kennedy saying, "You promised," and you're going to get. I think you will get the very first thing will happen will be the JFK stuff. And when that happens, if they tell the truth about the JFK thing, that's going to be a big deal. And that will be the step to the next thing. What will be the next thing? I'm not so certain, but certainly Martin Luther King Jr. and 9/11 are on the wings. And I think those will happen before UFO disclosure happens.
All right. Let's just take a second and take a breather, and I have some questions, but I do want to give a shout out to everybody. Everybody's been real patient in the room. I usually shout everybody out early. So let me say hi to Endoppression, AJK Retrospective, Robert Sanders, James Hadaway is here, Mary Spirit, how you doing? Robert Ball, Clifton James Kelly, and Magic, JT88, Craig Bombardi. There's a whole bunch of you guys here. John Dorch, as I scroll up, Renee Cruz, how you doing? I saw let's see, I saw a whole bunch of you guys. I can't scroll all the way up. I don't want to take up too much time. Give it a thumbs up, guys, because the thumbs up really does help. It gets the video more views. Comment in the chat as we're going. That also helps a lot. I noticed that the chat's kind of still here. You guys just talk about whatever in there. Go ahead and go for it, and leave a comment on the video if you're listening to this later, because that helps too. And comment what you think's going to happen. And let me run this by you real quick. This is what I think's going to happen, and let me know what you think of this. And that way, I've got it on the record. I think Trump's going to win. I think it's going to be close. I think Kamala's going to contest it, and I think that Congress is going to refuse to certify him on the 6th, and then the military is going to step in and say, no, that's not happening. He's our voted president, and the military is going to step in and put him in power. That's what I think is going to happen.
Michael, that's a very reasonable expectation at this point. I don't see anything saying that couldn't happen.
Yeah, there's definitely some interesting things. So they're just not. So they're just gonna fly. They're just gonna fly over all of us. They're just gonna show up.
What, the ETs?
Yeah.
Oh, hell no. No, what has to happen, there has to be a disclosure, an acknowledgement that the ETs not only exist, that the flying saucers, the UFOs really exist, but there has to be a disclosure of what they've been doing. And the big issue is that once you describe the ETs as being real, and you ask the question, what have they been doing? That's why they've been helping Farsight. There's no other place on the planet Earth where you have a full library of projects that describe excuse me, that describe exactly what has been happening for the last few thousands of years. You can't believe history books, you can't believe you can't believe anything. But what Farsight did, because it's all he says, it's people that can easily be manipulated. What Farsight did is we have humans that were trained to do this very advanced technology, to do these projects, and these projects are like way over 100 of these projects that fill in the question of what's actually been going on. So this is not where one ET group says one thing and another ET group says another thing. This is where we have collected our own information as humans, highly advanced and highly trained in the use of this novel methodology, but we've collected our own information and we have shown it, and we're showing exactly how we do it. We video record how we do it. We show people that the people don't know what the target is when they do it. We have a target reveal section where you can see them. You clearly see they're shocked, and we have shown all of the procedures that we use so that it can technically be replicated. So what you're looking at near is really in a very advanced state of being able to answer the question of what's really been going on over thousands of years. And the galaxy is absolutely brimming with life,
Yeah.
absolutely brimming. And if you accept that even
The
one
whole
UFO,
universe is like,
if you accept that even one UFO is real, then you realize that they have figured out the technological ways to travel interstellar distances in a short amount of time. So the physics argument saying no, you can't get faster than the speed of light. They couldn't get to us anyway, and we need to look for radio signals to see if there might be a civilization somewhere nearby. That's all junk. The issue is if even one UFO is real, even one, then the issue of technological capabilities to travel interstellar distances obviously has been resolved a long time ago, millions of years ago. The galaxy is then filled with life, and once you have the ability to move from one star system to the next in a short amount of time, the very next thing excuse me, the very next thing you have is the competition for resources. So what you have here is competition for resources. It's a predator-prey relationship everywhere, and that's what we're dealing with here.
do you think that we were originally raised for food?
No, this is a prison planet. We were thrown here. People were thrown here as prisoners. They came from elsewhere. Everybody on the planet is an extraterrestrial, but they've been processed in such a way that they've lost their remote viewing, their natural remote viewing capabilities, their normal telepathy capabilities. All of that's been stripped from them through a processing system. And it is true that one particular group of extraterrestrials who we call the reptilians, that's because they're reptilian, they're very much a predator situation, and they do actually eat flesh. They do actually eat human flesh. They also eat a lot of other things as well. I mean, animal flesh and things like that. But they really do rely. Their bodies do rely on actual flesh protein, and they get a rush out of the hunt. You know how a cat gets a rush out of chasing a mouse, and the cats really love to play with the mouse and chase the mouse and torture the mouse and so on like that. Well, that's what the reptilians like. They like not just to eat things, but to torture it along the way. But that's some of the things that the U.S. government doesn't want disclosure to come out for, because then they'd have to confess that they've been working with that very same group.
Now there are still some reptilians here, aren't there?
What do you mean there are still? There's no one's left.
Yeah, because I have a friend of mine that can actually sense the reptilians here in the town where I'm at in Huntsville, Alabama. They're all over the place here.
Yeah.
But
Michael,
I mean, this is
Michael. You know what I'm
deep
going to
state
do?
heaven here.
If it's okay, I'm going to take 10 seconds to grab a soda.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm going to be able to sip on it, and that will help me so I don't
Yeah,
cough.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Talk for 10 seconds. I'll be right
chat
back.
up with everybody about what's going on. Now, you guys have been Robert Bell. I'm going to let's not talk about that right now. I will talk to him about taking a ride out to Atlanta, because that's not far from me. I will talk to him about that. So just kind of lay off that in the chat. He does read the comments. Let's be respectful to our guests. And let's see. The power structures of the world will soon change. First will be the last, and last will be first. we're, we knew this was coming, right? We've been talking about this for years. I mean, this is, I think Courtney's exactly right. It's not going to matter at all who wins. It's going to go crazy regardless who wins, and that's just the bottom line. Now, what we're going to do with that, I guess we'll see. But things are definitely going to
That's
get
better.
crazy. Hey, Courtney, let me ask you a
Yeah.
question. The grays that
Yeah.
you talk about that have been here all this time, the bad aliens, they've been underground here for a long time, haven't they? Antarctica.
Well, there's no such thing as bad grays. There's just grays, and they work on both sides. To say that all grays are bad is like saying all humans are bad. There were grays on the good side and grays on the bad side. There's no such thing as like you can't identify a good or a bad, except excuse me. Hold on, let me drink again. Except for the except for the reptilians, who are mostly bad. Now, almost entirely bad in our neck of the woods. You have to understand with the reptilians is that there are good reptilians, and if you're thinking across the entire galaxy, there's lots of good reptilians of all types. It's just that the ones that are here in our neck of the woods are not. They do not have They do not have the best interest of humans in mind.
Yeah.
So we call them the bad ones.
Go ahead and
And that's
grab
the
you a
same.
drink.
And that's the same with the Greys. And yes, they have underground bases, but they're not just in those bases. There's not just Greys. There's reptilians. There's Greys. There's insectoids. There's all types of people. There's lots of. There's
Humans
lots of
too.
humans. What's
Yeah,
that?
humans too. Do you believe in the 20 and back program?
Yeah, that seems to be a thing. We did some projects on that.
Yeah.
So that is a thing. I mean, your body is not who you are. No one can. No physical body can be animated without what we call an ISB inside of it. And the ISB is what you call a soul or spirit, but we don't use that because of religious baggage. Someone who is for the purpose of being, but it's a non-physical being. And the non-physical beings, what we call the ISBs, are what animates all living things. So, with regard to, what was your question again?
I was asking about crap. It totally slipped my mind.
Well, it got me onto this issue of ISBs and well,
Yeah, the 20 and back program.
oh yeah. So if ETs have the ability to pop you out of your body as just as easily as you get out of bed in the morning, and and once they pop you out, one of the reasons that the bad ETs want control over planet Earth as a prison is you have, like say 8 billion physical human beings, but you also have maybe what, I don't know, 30, 40, how many billions of non-physical ISBs are in the wings that are, not in physical bodies right now. You have this huge population, and this population can be used for a military force that literally goes through the galaxy and conquers and expands, and that's what they want. So if you think about it, the expansion, like the Nazis, what did they want to do? They wanted to expand. They went east and went into Russia. They went west and went into France. They went into south. They went into Africa. They were expanding. That's exactly what the reptilians want to do. They want to expand. But to expand, you need people. You need ISBs.
Yeah.
So as far as the 20 and back program, that's just an example of how people can be taken out and put into other bodies and used. And then they have a way of eradicating the memories. So it's really hard to actually remember what happened. So they can pop you out in the evening and You can go out there for 20 years and do all types of things in other bodies. And if you get killed out there, they can put you into another body and keep shipping you out. That's why uh, for advanced ETs, a military force is replaceable. If you have somebody in a body fighting and they get killed, they just take the ISB and put him into another body and off he goes. And so what you have is a situation in which there apparently is some type of contract that is sometimes violated, but it's supposed to be that you can't take someone for longer than 20 years. Otherwise, they go mentally insane or something like that.
Yeah.
And so you can take them for 20 years and they can do things, and then you process them so they don't remember, but their personalities are changed. And then you pump them back into the body, into the body that they left 20 years earlier, and they don't remember a thing. They just had like some bad dreams or something like that. So that's how that works. And Tony Rodriguez is a good example of that type of thing. His memories are pretty strong now.
Yeah, he just had a conference with your son, I think, out in Sedona.
Yeah, two people from Farsight at the Sedona conference. That was Yemi Janae and Aziz Brown, my son.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I do want to address this, and I promise this will be the last time I bring this up with you. But somebody mentioned something to me that I thought was at least bouncing off of you. You've taken a lot of flack by coming out and saying that you've been working with the Greys, right? There are a lot of people out there that suggest that these Greys.
Well, that's how they phrase it. That I'm working with the Greys. We're working with a group of ETs, and they happen to have some Greys in them as well.
Yeah.
But these people who you're talking about make it sound like we're working with one group of Greys of ETs that are all Greys, and it's like they're.
Who are the other ones you're working with?
They look like you and me. Most of them, when we have these board meetings, they look
Yeah, but
like.
what are they? Are they Arcturians?
They don't go by those names. All these people that said the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, the this group, that group. That's all garbage that's been sent in by the controlling ETs to try to control the narrative of what they're trying to control everything in terms of rewriting the entire history of what actually happened on this planet. And so all those names, everything has to be rewritten. The entire history of the planet has to be rewritten, and we have to get the information ourselves through remote viewing to fill in all of the blanks. Now, if you go to FarsightPrime.com and you look, for example, at all of the projects, click on the thing that says "View All" for seeing all of the movie projects, for example. The list goes on forever. There's a huge list of projects that we've been doing. A huge list of projects that we've been doing. And what that is, it's a library that people can go to actually see what actually happened. And all of it was done under totally blind conditions by very highly trained remote viewers. And we collected it ourselves. It's not he said, she said. It's not something like a channeled entity told us and we should believe that. No, you can't believe anything that anybody says because they're all trying to manipulate what the knowledge is. And the groups that have done the worst type of thing are trying to reinvent history, rewrite history, so that all bad things that they have been involved in are gone. You don't see them anymore. That's what the victor always does. The victor always tries to control the historical narrative. And what our side of the ETs is doing is saying, you can't trust any of that. You have to go out and get your own information yourself. And so if people go to FarsightPrime.com, that was a library of information that our side of the good ETs helped us to get over like a 20-year period. It was really hard to do that.
Yeah.
But it exists now.
Have you ever thought for maybe just a minute, because you did say that you had a hybrid daughter
Yeah, I have a daughter.
that lived in one of the ships.
Yeah.
Did you ever think that maybe you were like they set you up right from the beginning, like even when they
No, I've been
joined
dealing
you?
with these people.
Just
I've
let
been dealing.
me get this in
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
That they stayed with you in bed when you were younger to win over that trust, just so that they could try to use your DNA, because apparently there's a war on for the DNA of humanity as well. Like our DNA isn't right, and that the Greys have been trying to mix our DNA with theirs, have you ever thought that they were using you as an experiment to progress that project along?
This is all conspiracy theory type stuff
Wow.
that comes right out of the narrative of what we call the bad ETs. That's the type of fear and stuff. The reality is we have been working with these groups from the very beginning, and I was working with these groups before I was even born as a human. I am totally human. I was born up as a human. I had a human mother, but I know where I came from. The only difference between me and everybody else is I have my memories. My memories, I know where I came from. I know why I'm here. That's the only difference. Well, there are some physical differences as well, but I was not able, because of my memories are intact, I was able to remember how ET bodies exist. And so I'm able to, I'm only allowed to use human tech, but I'm able to manipulate this physical body so that it ages at a much slower rate than a normal physical body ages. Normally, people are sort of dead in the water, just sort of retiring after 50, after 60 years old, 65, 70, they're really sort of phasing out. Whereas my aging rate is very, very slow. So I'll be around 40, 50 years from now. But um, but that's not because I've got ET genetics. It's because I remember, my people don't die at the age of 70. They go to way longer. They can go 200 years easy. And they and I just, so I'm able to manipulate what I do with this body so that it sort of mimics the conditions that an ET would have that lives on the ships. But I was dealing with these people long before that, and I've been involved with the ETs, with the Greys since I was a kid. I've mentioned before on this show that when I slept at night, when I was a kid, there would be two Greys on one side of the bed and two Greys on the other side of the bed, night after night after night. It just, that's what it was.
But they could have
And
done that just to build up your trust, though.
no, they were very clear. I saw them. I saw them. They were never threatening. They never did anything. Don't you see how easy? Excuse me.
Yeah.
Don't you see how easy it would have been for me to have been attacked? I needed somebody to defend me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
They were keeping me safe. And yeah, I have a daughter on the ship. I enjoy being with her, and she's proud of me doing this. And she is a hybrid, but like, that doesn't mean you can't, you can't believe anything I do just because I have a daughter. But that's
I
what
mean,
the bad.
I'm not. I've just, I mean, I'm just saying that way. I'm giving you an opportunity to, talk to the critic, so to speak.
Look, if I was interested in manipulating people's opinions, I could have kept all that secret. We're trying to remove all the secrecy to tell you
Yeah.
everything.
That's actually a really good point.
And so, me telling you everything, including the fact that we have meetings here with them, that's what they want. They want the end of secrecy. Now, mainstream science says this is looted, this is delirious, this is the guy Courtney must be deluded. Secrecy. What are you talking about? ETs in the meetings, but we have like 6 people here, and they're all talking to the same ETs and all answering the same questions in one uniform conversation. You can't fake something like that,
Yeah.
and it's all recorded live.
All right. So this is going to get interesting, I guess. We're going to leave that. Just let that lie where it is. I think you've spoke enough on that subject, and like I said,
Look, when I go to the beach, and we have meetings at the beach in a secluded, isolated, secret location, there's like 200 people there, 200 ETs around their ships. And I'm talking to somebody, and we record it live. We call it the Conversations with Harvey. So when we do that, almost every single one of them is a humanoid that looks just like you and me. I mean, they have some others there, insectoids, greys, things like that. But in terms of numbers, almost everybody looks just like you and me. And then you have some people coming in and trying to attack me by saying, "Oh no, he's working with all greys." What, they're just trying to put fear in your head. These people that come to our board meetings, they don't look like greys. I can only say to everybody in your audience, stop being afraid of a boogeyman that the bad ETs are actually trying to make you afraid of. There are good humans, there are bad humans. There are good greys, there are bad greys. There are good reptilians, there's bad reptilians. There's no such thing as, oh, be afraid of the greys.
Yeah, I mean, my cat, I love my cat to death, but to that
Yeah.
mouse family down the road, he's just a horrible, horrible being. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
he's the evil, the evil home destroyer and kid eater and everything else. Like, I get it, it's relative, right? It's all, it's all up and down the scale of
Okay.
the food
Okay.
chain,
And I
right?
can say to you, Michael, what about your neighbors when you were young? You're sure they weren't manipulating you and they somehow kidnapped you and brainwashed you into thinking then actually you're actually not who you think you are. You're actually somebody else. In fact, Michael, you don't even know that you're actually a woman, and you didn't even know you're a woman. You were brainwashed into thinking you were a man, and so you grew. And you don't, and you think you're married to yeah, to so and so. You're not married to so. I could raise all that types of stuff, but you say, look, this is ridiculous. I know who I am. I'm a man. I
Yeah,
know my neighbors. I've been dealing with them. That's me with these ETs. The only difference is at the end in 2020, no, not 2020, 2022, the decision was made to have absolutely no more. We didn't talk about all this beforehand, like in the beginning of Farsight, because we just didn't want to have to deal with that credibility factor before we had built up our library.
yeah,
Before FarsightPrime existed with this fully fleshed out library. If your audience has not seen FarsightPrime.com, you're making yourself slave fodder. You have to see the actual projects to actually see and go through the projects to actually see how much information we have actually collected there about what has actually been going on for thousands of years, especially in the real time. And so, yeah, yeah. So I have had lots of contacts, and I'm not afraid of grays at all. Some of them are my friends, and they said they had people that were protecting me when I was a kid. What am I supposed to do? They were wonderful. They kept me from being attacked. Do you think, with what we're doing now at Farsight, do you think I would have been allowed to actually survive if somebody didn't protect me? They would have wanted to stop this long time ago.
yeah. Well, I mean,
I
it's
would have been
true. They,
snuffed
they
out.
don't
Look
they
what
don't like
happened
this
in the
kind of stuff.
look at what happened in the Terminator movies. The Terminator movies, they tried to send people back to kill the protagonist. Who's the kid's name? The
John
Sarah.
Connor. John
Yeah,
Connor.
they were trying to kill John Connor, and then they went back to try to kill John Connor's mother, so that wouldn't happen in the future. They would have tried to have killed me long ago. I needed. You think I could have? Look at the disruption that people are going to be going through in the next couple months. People need protection. They need to protect themselves. They need to be careful and things like that. Do you think I would have come to this planet to try to help humanity if I didn't have some type of protection along the way? Just think of that.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, who was going to do it? Well, they happened to have when I was a kid, for whatever reason, they had four gray guys, two on the right, two on the left, and they kept me safe for years. And then, here I am today.
yeah. Let me
And
let me like I said, I mean that's neither here nor there, and I think it's true. I don't like to put any kind of anybody in a certain, like, you can't put all apples in one basket, right? Like,
well, if you
there's
can if
different
you can talk
apples.
if you can talk negatively about any particular genotype, you might as well talk about humans as being all bad.
Yeah, like I actually just did a show. I was learning that that there's a lot of these parasites that cling on to us, like in lower dimensional forms, that they cling on to our chakra areas, right? These parasites, we can't see them because they're lower dimensions, 2D, whatever they are. I don't know if they're higher dimensions. Oh, and I finally got that skeeter. Um,
Stargate
but
had a Stargate, the TV show.
yeah, but you can
They
actually
had a
you can.
great episode about that.
Oh, I actually really need to watch that show. I've never watched it.
Oh, it's a
My
great
my
show.
wife my wife's been trying to get me into it. Yeah, I keep hearing that, but we're trying to do it through the order, and apparently one of the movies, if you do it in order, is really bad. We haven't gotten through it.
You start with the original Stargate movie, and then you go through Stargate SG-1.
Yeah, I think we were
And that's
doing like an origin movie or something first. It was horrible.
no, no, no. You have to start with the movie, the Stargate movie. Then you go through the TV series, Stargate SG-1, and then the next thing is Stargate Atlantis, and the next thing is Stargate Universe.
Yeah, yeah, we really need to get into those. But I was learning that you can actually bring these parasites with you to ascension. You can help them ascend. You know what I mean? And don't just clean them off of you. Don't just get rid of them. Actually reach out to them and help them ascend. They want to ascend as well. Like that's one of the reasons why they're hanging on to you. And I just found that so fascinating.
Yeah,
Like wow, like
it's also bogus. It's also garbage. Nothing like that happens. You're not gonna. You're not having, I mean,
really?
it is true that you can possibly get things like that if you roll around in the gutter long enough, you can pick up some bugs. But if you're living a good life and secrecy is not there, and you're vibrating a good vibration, you don't have that kind of stuff happening to you. All that kind of stuff that you're talking about, and anything can happen to someone who rolls around in the gutter. And what means if you're rolling around in the gutter, you're living in fear. If you're and you're living
Yeah,
in
well,
fear because
a lot of people are,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah. But if they're living in fear, that means they don't know what's going on. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The disclosure. Total disclosure has to come out. There has to be no secrecy about anything, and then all these questions can be answered. But right now, people are living in fear, and that's exactly what the bad ETs want. They want everybody to be living in fear, and they want you, Michael, to say, "Oh my goodness, Courtney's working with Grays. It's all Grays. It's this and Gray." And they bring out the Grays as sort of the boogeyman, and like that's what they want. And as long as you're saying stuff like that, you're not realizing that the entire ET group is almost entirely that's opposed to them is almost entirely composed of humans, just like humanoid types that look just like you and me. These people that come to our board meetings, if they were wearing normal dress and clothing that you see on Earth, you could not tell the difference between them and then your neighbors.
Are they actually there?
Yeah, they're here. Yes,
I
they
mean,
show up.
not they're just not, you're not channeling them or anything, they're actually
No,
there?
no one's in a
Are
channel.
they invisible? You said they were
Well,
invisible, I
we
think.
can see them because we've been working with these things. Our remote viewing perceptions capabilities have enabled us to be able to see like the way when we remote view, and it's like we can see them. So, but we see them, but they're vague, foggy, fuzzy, but we clearly see them. And they're not really vague, foggy, fuzzy. We can see the clothes they're wearing. We can see the body. We can tell if they're male or female. You got to watch it. The things are available.
Now, why is that you can't see them? Is it because they're interdimensional or
No, there's a
are they
war going on. If they
yeah.
showed up and they were physically available to the human eye, not the trained person like me and the people at Farsight, but they were physically available, the military would be here in the blink of an eye, and we'd be attacked because there's a tacit agreement among them that the bad ETs run this place. And the bad ETs have an absolute agreement, by the way, that's actually written in the contract that the US government has signed with that group of ETs in order to get cooperation for reverse engineering ET tech.
Yeah.
In the written agreements, it is stated that secrecy is an absolute. They do not want anything in they want everything to be secret. And you can say, Courtney, how do you know that? Because well, it was said by Chaim Mashed. He's the former head of the Israeli Space Directorate for 30 years, retired general, decorated general, now a professor, and he stated it in an interview that it's written in the agreements. So, it's not a secret really for those people who know these things. So the issue with the our side, they are absolutely required. And trust me, the bad ETs know everything we're doing. They don't have any secrecy. There's no secrecy among the bad ETs or the good ETs. Secrecy doesn't work anymore at that level. Everybody knows everything. It's like a chess people that are playing chess. Both sides see what's on the board. Both sides know the rules, but both sides are coming up with strategies to defeat the other person. But there's no secrecy anymore. It's not like one chess player has a hidden rook that the other one can't see. It's everybody sees everything. So what happens is that the so-called bad ETs know everything that we're doing, and if the so-called good ETs violated the agreements and actually showed up, and so that you could see them with your physical eyes, first thing that would happen is if we video recorded that, everyone would say, "Are you serious? They just bought that costume on online and Amazon, and they're just actors." So no one would believe it in the first place.
Yeah. So
Second thing is
is it just projection then?
no, they're there. Look, it's not projection. They're right there. You can see
How
them.
are they able to make themselves invisible?
You're talking about people that have millions of years of tech.
No, I know, but I mean, didn't you ask them that? I mean, that'd be the first thing I'd ask.
No, invisibility. Okay. One of the things that we have done at Farsight is to bridge the gap of proving that the ETs actually exist by showing people how to reliably take video recordings of extraterrestrial spacecraft, UFOs,
Yeah,
UAPs,
yeah.
on demand in the middle of the day. We have it on our website, farsight.org, recording UFOs. And we have an enormous collection of recordings that we have made, and there's now a growing industry, or a growing community of people who are following our advice and making their own recordings. I know because they send me copies.
Yeah, and we went over that on the on Instagram. Yep.
So we did that. And so the issue of invisibility is a big thing, because all of these ships are cloaked. They try to hide themselves. That was the whole idea. Well, look, Michael, why does anyone try to hide themselves when they're flying right over your head? They obviously don't want you to see them. Otherwise, they would not they would not try to hide themselves. So invisibility is a big issue. Now, some of the ETs are trying to push push the envelope here and make their ships visible to you. So people are making photographs, video recordings of ships from time to time that actually can be seen visibly. But it's rare. At any one time, at any one moment, there's probably 30 UFOs above your head. At any one moment, there's
Well, I'm in Redstone Arsenal, and there's a giant mothership hovering over our town right now.
Well, the point is, when you
That
use
happened.
when you use the video recording advice that we do, shooting in infrared at 120 frames per second, and then processing the way we tell people how to do it, you see them. So you can say there's a UFO mothership, but if you follow our advice and actually take the cameras out and do it properly, you can actually see it.
All right.
So this
Let's
one,
yeah, go ahead. All right.
so them being sort of invisible physically, it avoids the military rushing into our boardroom and arresting everybody and shooting things, because that's what would happen. And by the way, these crash UFOs that they're reverse engineering, and how do you think they crash? The U.S. military shoots them down. That's what the ET tech is being used. So the bad ETs are helping the U.S. government reverse engineer some of the stuff, and that includes some weaponry. And occasionally, a ship from the good side gets snookered into being in a vulnerable position, and they get shot at and they get crashed. And when they crash, that's when the U.S. comes in, grabs them, sends them off, and processes them, and so on like that. And that's how they get the ships that they can reverse engineer.
All right. So let's get into a couple listener questions. We've got about 6 minutes left, and we normally do a 30 minutes worth, but we had a lot to talk about, so we took up a lot of
we always do, Michael.
a lot of the question time.
Yeah.
So let's go over here. I've got Robert Bell wants to know, what do the ETs think about our Constitution?
That's a good question. I have no idea. I've never asked them. But yeah.
I mean, do they have rights? Like in space, do they have rights that they're supposed to live by?
Among the good ETs, they are fanatical with rights, and one of the things that they really insist on is free will. It gets them, even on me. It gets to be frustrating. I sort of want them just to push the envelope and just forget free will for a little bit and just, I got out of frustration, I just say, "Will you knock those suckers out, those bad ones?" But they know, they say not only that, if a group voluntarily says they've decided to remain slaves of the reptilians or whatever group, that's their free will and they can do it, and they're absolutely adamant about that. So
All right.
yeah, in terms of rights, yeah, they're big on rights. And one time I was making some comments in one of our conversations that I was having with him about women's rights and stuff like that, and the lady, the head of the ET group that works with us, shows up in the ships and so on like that, is a woman, and boy, she yelled at me. I, I didn't think I was saying anything controversial, but she really got on my case.
All right. Robert Bell says, how many times have humans on this earth been knocked back into the Stone Age?
Oh, that happens many times. This planet is not supposed to be a place where civilization grows up. Every 25, 30, 40,000 years or so, there's some type of there's a pole shift,
Yeah.
there's a coronal mass ejection, something happens, and basically everybody gets wiped off. We are, and the crust of the earth is 8 miles thick. Everything after that is 8,000-mile diameter ball of liquid molten rock.
Yeah.
Do you? We live on a floating balloon.
Yeah.
This is not.
We got to get out of here.
This is not a stable place. To have a stable long-term civilization, you need 1,000,000 years of stability. You don't have that here.
Yeah.
This is a great planet for animals and plants. Fauna, flora, stuff like that.
Yeah. Place to come vacation.
Yeah, the reason there's such an interest with governments in Antarctica is underneath the ice there's tech. It's
Yeah.
not just they're looking for core samples to see minerals or something like. There's tech under there. That's why the military has an intense interest for Antarctica stuff.
All right. Natasha M says, Courtney, have you met Commander Ashtar?
No, I've never met Commander Ashtar. I don't even know if we do know that there is. That's a name that we're not really. That name was originally brought out by the bad ETs, so I'm not even sure that there is an official Ashtar command.
Okay.
But I do know that there are so many groups out there that are basically divided into good ETs and bad ETs. That's the best I can see. And but within each group, within each side, good ETs and bad ETs, good ETs and bad ETs. There's many different groups. So I'm sure you can find some group that maybe likes to call itself the Ashtar Command, but it's not like a major thing. It's they have many different groups of all types.
Okay. Country Carpenter wants to know, why is Trump going to be president in relation with UFO? And I'm guessing maybe UFO disclosure. Why does it have to be Trump?
I didn't say it has to be, but as I read the political tea leaves, Kamala Harris is more of a status quo option.
Yeah.
So that
she's a puppet.
keep things going as they're going. And Donald Trump is a disruptor. Now, when I say a disruptor, I do not mean a bad thing. A disruptor is a technical term, and it means anybody who goes into something and then fundamentally changes what was going on before that. Bezos with Amazon is a disruptor. Steve Jobs with Apple was a disruptor. Elon Musk with SpaceX and Tesla and so on, clearly a disruptor. But there can be bad disruptors as well. Hitler was a disruptor, Genghis Khan was a disruptor, and Mussolini was a disruptor. So you can have good disruptors or bad disruptors. But the word disruptor does not imply bad or good. Just means it goes in and disrupts things from the way they were. Donald Trump is clearly a disruptor. He's very comfortable with shifting things around. And he's made an alliance with Bobby Kennedy and Elon Musk, and they are both disruptors. So all three are disruptors. So if there's going to be any major disclosure, I see it probably more likely that it would happen with disruptors than it would be with status quo people.
I really want Trump to win because I love the idea of RFK fixing our food. Our food is poison now here in this country. It
That's
really
a
is.
that's a very good
It,
that's a
it,
very good that's a very good question and a very good statement.
yeah,
And
I mean,
a lot of people, even Joe Rogan mentioned that in his podcast with Donald Trump. He really says, I hope you really follow through with that thing you said about having Bobby Kennedy work on the.
yeah,
Uh,
he tweeted today that if they win the election, they're going to make fluoride illegal to put in everybody's water.
well, we'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah, think about that. All right,
Well,
six.
there's good and
Yeah,
things. There's good and bad things about the fluoride issue. The issue is that when I grew up, I had so many cavities. I could set off a metal detector with my teeth. And again, that was in the old days when they used mercury fillings and stuff like that.
mhm,
And every time you get a cavity, you have all of that. You get all of these injections of painkillers and everything else, and toxic this, toxic that. My son Aziz Brown, he has had fluoride in his water. He has never had a cavity in his life. I mean, there's a big so there's good things and bad things about the whole thing.
all right. Six Stream says we should know what these good ETs call themselves. So this group that visits you that you're working with, do they have a name or something that they
Yeah,
call
they
themselves?
do. They have individual names, they have group names, but it's all too confusing for me to sort of. I just group them off as the good ETs and the bad ETs, and among each side, there's many subgroups, and
Yeah.
I don't, I don't worry about the subgroup names.
Okay. I guess that's Werder Bremen says, Courtney, I'm proud and impressed by your truth that I've known for a while now. I just threw that out there for you. You do have
Well,
supporters in here, so
I would like to say one thing about the disruptions that are heading. If
all
our
right.
side is correct, we were told point blank that if if 6 months happens from now and nothing's happened and everything's stable and there's been no disruptions and everything's calm, that means we lost. Our side lost because they're trying to get all of these disruptions to happen at the same time. They didn't create them, but they're compressing them in time. So, but one of the things they said, and this is a good way to end it, Michael. They said, please listen, watch it. There's nothing more you can do about it. The time is now or never to get disclosure. Don't get involved. They said, don't think that you have to rush out and and start doing the demonstrating or taking military action, or just don't get involved. Just watch it from the sidelines. It's going to happen. So that's the advice I give to everybody, except I do say one other thing, and they did sort of suggest this as well. I've been not told to do any doomsday prepper stuff, but they did say the following: don't waste your money. Right now, for the next 6 months, let's say you have $10,000 in the bank, or you have $10,000 you could borrow on credit. Don't go on the cruise and wipe it out right now. don't
Yeah.
don't take the vacation. This is not the time to buy an $8,000 ring for your girlfriend. Get a $200 ring that's artificial, and say, be happy with that for the next 6 months. Meaning, just
Yeah.
don't waste your money for the next 6 months. Have fun, enjoy yourself, things like that, but don't be a big spender. Don't do any risky things with for 6 months. When it comes around June or July, if everything's stable, then go ahead. You haven't lost anything. You still have your cash, and you can go on your cruise. You can do whatever you want. But for the next 6 months, just don't waste your resources. That's the advice I'm giving.
Yeah, that's good advice. That's good advice. If you can, maybe buy some silver or something, put under your mattress. That's probably a good idea too. All right, Courtney, thanks so much, man. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Farsight.org is our website, our official website. Farsight is our YouTube channel. And FarsightPrime.com is the library that our side of the ETs helped us to, make over 20-year period. If you have to actually go through FarsightPrime.com to see how extensive everything actually is. But in terms of how many projects, once you go through and look at all the projects at FarsightPrime.com, you realize there's no other way this could have been done without extraterrestrial help. Once you go through it and you say, humans, actually collected all of this information and made it cinematically interesting so you can see what's going on under totally blind conditions where everything is shown. Yeah, and say, well, we haven't, and you'll say, well, it's nothing like that has ever happened before anywhere on the internet or any place. That's the point. You should say, that's, if you want proof that some things that we've been getting help from from our side, that's the proof you can see. It's nothing like this has ever happened before. So it's FarsightPrime.com, and our website, which is really a great website for getting all types of information, is simply farsight.org, FARSIGHT.org. And our YouTube channel is Farsight, just YouTube, Farsight, and there you are.
Yep, and all of the links, everybody, are down in the description box below. Thanks so much, Courtney, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Let's get you on again real soon, maybe January 5th.
Yeah, that would be great. That'd be great. I do
Stick
want
around a
to
second.
I do want to apologize for the cough I have. It's the only reason is I'm not sick or anything. I just have been talking all day and my voice is a bit
Yeah,
going
yeah,
down.
we appreciate your time. I was thinking of letting you bail a little earlier, and then you went and got a soda, so I appreciate you sticking
Yeah.
it out. And, man, as always, what a great show. Thanks for coming on, and, until next time, everybody, batten down the hatches and be safe.